The Asics Metaspeed Sky Plus versus the Nike Zoom Fly 6. Which one is your better race day shoe? Let's compare and contrast and find out. So before we get into the video, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're already subscribed watching content. Thanks so much, love you guys a lot. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Strava for all sorts of other updates and things of that sort. So without further ado, let's begin. Specs for the shoes up here where you can see them. You might be wondering why this particular comparison is happening in my present day running lineup, and I may have discussed this in a previous video, but the Metaspeed Sky Plus is back in my shoe rotation after about a year of hiatus. Mostly because, one, the last time I used this shoe was during a half marathon where I had a really bad experience post-race from just having a lot of burning in one of my feet as a result of just poor running form in a shoe that requires a little bit more skill to sort of use. And then two, there's just a lot more product circulating, and I was in the middle of this Chicago Marathon training block, and I couldn't risk having this shoe be my central focus while I was using it, right? And again, that's why the Zoom Fly 6 kind of comes in, because as I am in my 2025 Chicago Marathon rotation, this is currently my everyday racer for my speed, tempo, threshold workouts, and it is about 300 plus miles in, performing well above my expectations. But again, as carbon plate shoes, we get to talk about them now in terms of where they, kind of stick in my training schedules and my warm-ups and things like that. And that's why we're here. So for my expert viewers, you probably know where I'm leaning in terms of which one would be like the better one of the shoes, but we have to break this down a little bit more because I think this question becomes a little bit more complicated. Of course, main things to note here, the Zoom Fly 6 is a heavier shoe than the Metaspeed Sky Plus. We're talking about 9.3, 9.4 ounces depending on your shoe size. In my case, 8.5 puts it at about 264 grams, right? We do have that 40 millimeter heel, 32 millimeter forefoot with that 8 millimeter offset, a standard in the current running shoe culture with these high stack, massive foam shoes with carbon plate, right? They give you this 8 millimeter offset for that higher heel sensation, which will recruit more of your hip, glute, hip slash glute, quadricep, hamstring muscles for your running in addition to your calves, right? So this is a very forgiving stack and spec setup for the shoe, making it a very friendly everyday racer and also a pretty good race day shoe if you really so choose to go in that direction. In terms of an everyday trainer, just don't recommend it because of its stiffness as a carbon plate product, but that's okay. That's up to you. I'm just telling you, like, if you want to get really technical with it. If you're like that person who's like, I only want one shoe that does everything, the Zoom Fly 6 can technically do everything. It's just, again, you want to be specific, right? You want to think about the longevity of your body and some of the choices you make with your running shoes, right? I guess the last thing we'll note there is we do have that ZoomX compound foam running the top. We have that ReactX kind of running the bottom to give a little bit more of that cushioning from the ground, a little bit more of responsiveness from the ZoomX to kind of rebound as you strike, as you do in this particular shoe. Now, when we get to the Metaspeed Sky Plus, this shoe, a lot lighter than the Zoom Fly 6. We're talking specifically 7.1 ounces. That is like about 200 grams on average, give or take a few grams. Very light, resembles more of our Vaporfly Next Percent series shoes, some of the Saucony products that are kind of out there. This is a light shoe. It's a race day shoe. In most cases, it can be used for all your daily stuff if you absolutely had to, but this is a high caliber, expert level shoe to run in. Why is that? It's our specs, right? We have a heel of about 39 millimeters and then we have a forefoot of about 35. This gives us about a 5 millimeter offset. You lose the high heel, and as a result you have more calf emphasis while you're running in this shoe naturally, but the expertise part is that the midfoot strike is what is demanded of the shoe to get you the best results, and despite having this 5 millimeter offset, it almost seems like it has a negative offset just simply based on its looks, right? So you need to recruit more of this midfoot strike to get the return out of the shoe that you want. But when you do get the return, this is like an engineering marvel, okay? So that being said, not everyone will understand how to use this shoe, right? Heel strikers are going to have a bad time in this shoe. It sinks so low, you're going to hurt yourself in this thing. Forefoot strikers might not get all the energy return that they need from this thing. So this is what I was struggling with originally, was that more that forefoot strike of the shoe spot here. So as I practice this over the year of having this shoe, I can strike a little bit more with the midfoot now. I can get the return I'm looking for. I can get the higher step cadence per minute out of this thing. And as a result, I can start using the shoe properly. Now the only real things I would need to do at this point to make it a more effective race day shoe is to make sure that I can practice in it more frequently. And that's what I'm doing now with some of the more tempo and track sessions that I've got and other sprint workouts that are available to me, is just putting time on feet in this particular product, right? So that's the main stuff to note with some of its specs. Again, we do have that FF Turbo foam running duration of the shoe split in half. We do have a carbon plate that's in the middle of the shoe. Once again, I recommend it for your faster workouts. I recommend it for race day. As a recovery shoe and an everyday trainer, I don't think so. Very stiff, hard to get around in a slow sort of fashion, but if you can do it, you do you, it's fine, right? So now let's get into the shoes side by side. Now we got their individual specs sort of on the way. The question here is, which one would you use for your race day? Well, we're revisiting the question, right? Because a lot of people think this is an obvious answer. They're like, yeah, it's the Metaspeed Sky Plus. It's a lighter shoe. It's got the carbon plate. This is meant to be the race day shoe. You use this thing. Well, hold on a minute, right? A lot of people, first and foremost, if we want to go with the easy pickings, the budget might not be totally in the cards, right? When I bought this thing, I think I got it for about, I think it does retail at about $250, right? Or it used to. I bought this thing at a discount maybe for about $200 at the time, which is cool, but $250 standard out of the box, out of the store, versus, well, I think this was about $160, and I think maximum $180. So price point is sort of something of concern, depending on what you have in budget. Like, some people might not want to spend the extra $20 to $50 for a slightly faster shoe. Some people might just be comfortable with this. That's fine, right? That's pricing. Now, if we're talking about skill set and skill level and maybe range of what you can do, as I mentioned earlier, the Metaspeed Sky Plus might not have the range of workouts you would look or enjoy to have with this particular shoe, right? Are you somebody who just wants to go run 5 miles a day really easy every morning and you just do this to stay fit? I don't know if the Metaspeed Sky Plus would be your pick in this case, right? This is a stiff, demanding shoe that will sort of take a beating on you over time. You would want something a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more stack. If you're not putting that high volume, you're not like building that resistance to the carbon plate stiffness of the shoe, I would not recommend it for that kind of a situation, right? Now with the Zoom Fly 6, again, I wouldn't recommend it for everyday workouts, but it's a lot more forgiving than the Metaspeed Sky Plus, simply based on some of its specs, the foams used, and just the overall comfort of the upper materials that are affiliated with the shoe. Because again, in this shoe, it's a very light material, not a whole lot keeping the difference between your foot and the ground, not a whole lot of heel, cuff, not a lot of materials to protect from that heel chafing if it may occur. Whereas in the Zoom Fly 6, we've got a lot more material, still a little bit light compared to your everyday shoe, but there's a lot more cushion that's kind of going around, right? That being said, if your running form is not in a good spot, and I think a lot of us are probably guilty of this, we haven't practiced the running form, we didn't run track and field in high school, we didn't get coached very well, maybe we started running while we were in college, or you get into the workforce in your 30s and you're maybe, or you're 50 and you just started running, you're Forrest Gump and you're like, yo, I just felt like running. The Metaspeed Sky requires a couple of years, maybe a little bit longer worth of practice in your run form to understand how to get the most out of this. I'm not saying you couldn't do it. I'm just saying that for somebody like me who's been running for, I'd say, almost 10 years now, it took a little bit of adjustment to get into this shoe properly. And even when I had it the first time around and I couldn't figure it out, I almost like rage quit the shoe altogether. I'm like, this just doesn't work, right? My running form is not where I need it to be efficiently to run in this shoe the way it's meant to be. So that being said, not everyone's like me. You're probably a more highly adept runner than I am, and you're probably a lot more competent than I am. You're not as, dumb is what I'm trying to say, as I am when it comes to running. You're not as stubborn, perhaps. And you can figure out this shoe probably better than I can. Maybe you won't. I don't know. It's hard to say. But that being said, if you don't have the running form and you don't feel confident about your running form and you know you're more of a heel striker, between these two shoes, maybe the Zoomfly 6 might be the move for you. Like, if I was given the option to race in the Zoomfly 6 and I had nothing else I can race in, like I didn't have an Alpha Fly, I didn't have the Next Percent 2s, I didn't have, the Sky Plus, I could probably comfortably use the Zoomfly 6. Probably won't expect a PB or anything of that sort, but I will have a slightly faster pace than my daily trainer by at least 30 seconds to a minute per mile. So those gains are marginal enough where the Zoomfly 6 could be used in those particular cases, right? And that being said, like I mentioned, if your running form is still something you need to work on, I think the Zoomfly 6 is a lot more forgiving as a carbon plate, everyday racer style shoe to be used in those scenarios, right? So that's kind of where it comes down to, is like your own expertise level, how confident you feel about your running form. Do you understand what you're running in and what the expectation from what you're running in demands, right? Like, are you confident that you're a strong midfoot striker with at least 170 to 180, 85 steps per minute, where something like a Metaspeed Sky Plus makes sense for you? Or are you somebody who's been running for maybe, you've been cracking it consistently for 6 months, maybe 3 to 4 years, and like you're still figuring out the running form thing, you've got the Nike product, you bought some other things, you're playing around, you got the carbon plate, and maybe this is the move because you're still trying to have something that's a little bit more forgiving on your everyday training, your speed workouts, your race day stuff. This could be the move for you. So this is kind of where my brain goes with these particular comparisons, right? Despite this being the race day shoe and this is the everyday racer, you would be expecting this would be your overall pick as the faster shoe. And if you know what you're doing, yes it is. If you're not totally sure this could be the move, you'd probably get more out of the Zoomfly 6 than the Metaspeed Sky Plus. That's where I'm leaving this right now. If you agree or disagree with the assessment, let me know in the comments below. Again, if you have an experience with both of these shoes that's similar, let me know. If you got something a little bit different, if you got something that I may have missed that's worth addressing between both products, let's talk about it. That's what we're here to kind of find out, is if the assessment is correct and if this is what we see in the running market right now with both of these products, if this is kind of the case. So I will leave it at that. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.